Well, hello again, race fans, and welcome to another round of the US IndyCar League right here on Virtual Racing Network. Today, it's race number 212. It's season 13. We'll be doing 96 laps here around POCONO at the POCONO 190, presented by StickQuik. Of course, the rest of the information there, not quite up to date today, but we're getting ready for today's action. Some graphical updates happening. And here we go. So we're taking a look at who is out there on the track, just about ready to jump down trackside and see who is going to be doing their first qualifying efforts. And so far, seeing a couple of cars heading out there already. We've got Graham Bunyan heading out onto the track with a brand new livery. See if we can get down there and get a little bit of the beautiful song of the IR18 Indy cars here in the US IndyCar League in its 13th season. And of course, Graham Bunyan, your two-time champion here in the US IndyCar League, taking over that crown from Jason Lowe, who was the three-time champion. And last week's winner, Graham Bunyan, set to do some battle here today. And we will see whether or not he can take pole position or will take the win. Last week, second place driver Howard Livingston on the track, ready to qualify. And he's already completed his first lap. So far, David Zaleski now coming in with the top time, as you can see, 41.31 on my timing and scoring software. Never can figure out why why what it shows on the screen is a little different than what I have in my software. We both see two digits after the number, but there you go. So Zaleski on provisional pole at the moment. Livingston second. We'll jump back over to Bunyan as he in fact moves ahead of those cars and puts his name at the top of the charts. No surprise for this driver. He's taken a number of pole positions here in the US IndyCar League, and he's completing his second lap here. We're going to keep an eye on the sector times and see if they do manage to decrease on this lap. And not faster, just slightly slower in the first sector than he was on the first lap. We've also got some other big players yet to qualify. At the moment, we do have Rick Lovison coming in fourth place with his qualifying lap, and then there Graham Bunyan with a even faster, sorry, not a faster lap, a little slow to update with the time and score. Sure hope it would wake up my software this morning. It's a little slow to get some different aspects going here, but there we go. Graham Bunyan so far fastest. Rick Kelbaugh slotting into fifth. In the StickQuik machine, Mr. StickQuik there in fifth place so far. Jeff Murray making a return to the series. Great to have him back in. Missed a few of the races last season, and then this season, like a couple of the drivers, just didn't realize this first race was happening so quickly. Was not able to take part in the first one, but great to have him back in, a great competitor in the series. And then here is David Strid, last week's pole sitter, and he led so many laps and really looked like it was going to be his day. Fortunately, not quite working out that way. And so Strid right now, though, in fourth place. Perhaps he'll be able to do something about it today. Increase that position in the points. So Jason Lowe also on track at the moment. Series champion and looking to return to his winning ways of the past. Dan Ensch back out there in the ALZ.org machine, and just as we tune in, it is Ensch wiping out there out of turn 3. Of course, we are at Pocono Speedway, and it is Dan going to get in another lap? I think he might be able to get in one more. No, he had started his second lap. Well, it's an interesting result, but we'll have to see. Qualifying, finishing, and multiple different drivers not getting in a lap. Iñigo Mardones, Ryan Bowles, Mike West, Manuel Gomez, Esteban, and Danny Alt all lining up to take a qualifying effort, but not doing so today. So they're going to be starting from the back, assuming that they will actually get a start in. So let's go ahead and take a look at our final results for qualifying as the pace car is out there and ready to take these cars around. And it is your points leader and your defending champion, two-time champion, Graham Bunyan, who will start at the head of the field today, alongside perennial favorite David Zaleski making an appearance. And anytime Zaleski is in the field, you know that he is a contender for the win. So starting on the second row will be Graham's countryman and I guess teammate. I don't know that that's official, but let's just say that they work together. David Strid there on the second row, and Howard Livingston keeping up his qualifying progress as well as his competitiveness here. You know, I didn't even notice Howard Livingston with a 3590 iRating, so he's actually, just on iRating alone, one of the higher rated drivers in the field, and certainly showing it there with his fourth place just behind David Strid, who's really well known for his speed. Newcomer to the field, Troy Profit, going to be starting in the fifth position, and that is great to see. Brand new driver in the field, going to be right there, able to compete with everyone else. And so if you're out there watching right now and you'd like to see yourself out here and you're wondering, well, do I have a shot at it? Could I possibly do something with it? Yes, you could. Will Stern's going to be making a great start from from eighth, as Jason Lowe is going to be starting in seventh. And some of the names jumping around as we get going here and underway under the pace car for our pace laps. Let's see how everyone else has qualified or decided not to qualify for today's race, and they will be starting from the back. Danny Alt, as he often does, showing up for the race, but not going to be taking the start today. So 15 cars is our field, and that's a terrific one, up a couple of cars from our last race. In the meantime, we have a chance to take a look at the points. So this is how they finished last race, and this is how the points stack up. You can see it's not a big swing. Everybody's still got a chance at that championship, but pretty hard to stop Graham Bunyan from continuing a three-peat here as the champion in this series if he's going to keep winning these races. So these drivers are going to have to do their best to keep him at bay. And for those of you that were watching the Formula One race earlier this morning, welcome. I won't spoil it for you, but it is well worth watching, especially for that final lap. Congratulations to the champion, and some pretty exciting stuff to watch. And now that the F1 season is over, hey, we've got practically an entire US IndyCar League season to happen. And you're watching it right here on VirtualRacing.Network. We'll be with you the whole way. As we get set to go, it's going to be Graham Bunyan with David Zaleski alongside. We are set for 76 laps of action. Our opening graphic completely wrong. I think somehow it didn't get saved properly, but there we go. This is the correct info, 76 laps. We are underway at the famous triangle here in Long Pond. And looking back through the field, looks like everybody made it through pretty successfully. Back towards the back, nobody getting tangled up. Everybody kind of slotting in at the moment. Take a look from on board Will Stern's machine, the 306. Stern's having a really good race running last week, just not quite able to make all of those adjustments stick for all of the race. Unfortunately, not finishing up in the order where he had been running most of the race at Vegas. He's getting a big run here on Rick Lovison on the outside. Well, they head side by side into the corner, and yes, they do. And just ahead, you can see it stacking up a little bit as Jeff Murray cuts under the bottom side of Troy Profit. There's Murray. Great to have him back in the field. To let him know about our commercial livery policy. But either way, we'll get a chance to focus on all those cars who do work with that policy. And here's Jason Lowe, your defending champion of a couple of seasons ago. Unfortunately, he lost that title 2 seasons ago, and you know he is anxious to get that back. In the meantime, just up ahead, in fact, it's David Zaleski in the orange and white machine that has lost a position to David Strid. And the leader, Graham Bunyan, at the moment, Bunyan able to walk away just a little bit from David Strid behind. So Strid, perhaps tail gunner today, not really sure what everybody's role is yet, but Bunyan right now, fastest that time by, not a surprise. And he's got the purple sector and purple lap on the race with a 42.69 that time by. So getting faster and faster for Graham Bunyan. So hope everything sounds good to you, looks good to you out there in IndyCar land. If you're watching, that is fantastic, and we do appreciate it. You can feel free to say hello in the YouTube chat room as we get set for this day's race here. 72 more laps to go, and it's a question as to whether any of these drivers have anything for Graham Bunyan, including David Strid, who frequently has the pace to keep up with Bunyan, but here he is running a little bit further back. He's now dropped 1.3 seconds off of Bunyan, so he might be a little concerned with losing that gap up in front and losing that draft. We look out the back, and it's kind of it's getting to be a long ways back there to David Zaleski. He too is going to start to get concerned with losing that draft up in front. Move back and take a look at Zaleski, who's now, just as I say that, began to close in on Strid. So cut that lead back from about 0.8 of a second down to 0.6 of a second, and closing a little bit quickly. Of course, it's really going to matter here who can make those adjustments today. And I'll tell you, a driver who's already looking good. I mean, we jump back to Howard Livingston, who's in 4th. He started in 4th, but this is Jason Lowe, who I was just going to say has jumped 2 positions on the day already, as Troy Profit and Rick Lovison have dropped back. But you could see him getting very squirrely coming off of turn 3. And I did see him and a number of drivers really struggling with these tires and making those adjustments in the practice session. So a question as to whether he's going to be able to make the anti-roll bar and weight jacker adjustments today to keep himself in the race. Again, Lowe just kind of trying to focus this season. You heard him talking a little bit about it, and I think he'll be the first one to acknowledge the one place that he needs to clean up is the little mistakes. And I mean, that's for anybody. Doesn't matter kind of where you're at in iRacing, as we see some battling happening here a little bit further back. That's Dan Ensch under rookie Troy Profit's car. Ensch not quite able to pull off that pass. This is for 9th place, as Troy has actually dropped back 4 spots from his qualifying position. And now you see Dan Ensch coming under fire from Iñigo Mardones, another driver. It's great to have him in the field racing for Necki Racing Team. Been out here repping for Necki for quite a few seasons, and he can be lightning fast. I don't know if today is going to be his day, as he's starting a bit far back, but we will find out. You can see just ahead, it was Dan Ensch once again making a move under the car of Troy Profit. We take a look at that SparkVRALZ.org machine. You know how special that organization is to Dan. And in the meantime, we're keeping a watch up at the front, and not much is changing there. So now Dan falling back a little bit from Troy, but great to have Dan back in the field again this week after seeing him for so many races, a stalwart in the league, and helping to practice and helping to supply setups, and just a big help to the whole community here as he goes down to the bottom side on Troy. And Troy's got a beautiful livery on that car this week. Dude, once again, appreciate everyone working with us in the commercial logos policy. And wow, Jeff Murray really having a moment there, actually getting involved in an incident and unfortunately collecting, I believe that's Iñigo Mardones. I don't know exactly what happened. We saw it just out of Dan's car. We will be able to take a look at that. Let's see if we can find where this one began. So this was just as Dan was making the pass. Here's with Jeff Murray, who once again is rejoining the field after multiple races off. And there he gets loose coming through turn 3, keeps it up against the outside wall, but unfortunately, he tries to pull it down into the pit lane. Ensch manages to avoid, and that last second decision put him straight on a course for impact with Iñigo Mardones. See if we can see it from Mardones. Actually, we'll take a look from Jeff's point of view here. See if we can figure out exactly what happened. On board with Murray coming through 3, it just gets loose, kind of starts to track up, and there he's up in the wall, and I think it starts to come off towards the inside of the track, and he wants to head that way anyway. Didn't look from the replay like he put much input into it, like he actually tried to drive it down into the pits until it had already started coming down that way. But see what it looked like, unfortunately, from Iñigo Mardones' point of view. And wow, very fortunate that this is sim racing, but still pretty terrifying stuff to see in real time. And Mardones coming to a stop. So now it's a yellow flag, and so here is all of our leaders coming down pit road. Everybody deciding to make their stop now, with the exception of Dan Ensch, who's going to stay out there for a lap and get credit for leading a lap. And he will take over at the front. This is actually an excellent play by Dan Ensch, especially if there is another yellow flag. He's undoubtedly just trying to do whatever he can to make up some positions, and it does appear as though Zaleski actually managed to beat out David Strid of the pit. So congratulations to Zaleski on a fantastic pit stop there. And Strid gonna be, well, it depends on what iRacing says, but it's possible that Strid will actually line up 5th on the track behind Ensch. So we see Strid starting to slow, and Jason Lowe now on the outside. We'll get that sorted out, but it does appear as though possibly Howard Livingston will be scored ahead of Strid to restart. So Strid losing a couple of positions on pit road. And in the meantime, Dan Ensch will be your leader until we cycle back around. In fact, he will restart in first, so we'll keep it there. And in the meantime, it's a perfect opportunity. You know what I'm going to say. Get ready for it as we take all of this other stuff off the screen. And you won't miss anything as we go side by side for this great device. Well, I mean, if you haven't heard about it until now, you've been living in a cave, but we talk about it every week. It is the StickQuik. Look at this thing. I'm still using the old photos. I just saw they put some new photos up on the site. Try to get those for next week. A little bit of a case studies area as well if you want to get even more ideas on where and how to use these, but it should be self-evident just from looking at it. But just think, these weather-resistant silicone little rings, I want to call them, these StickQuik devices, brilliant things. And you can see you just wrap them around anything. It's useful for tools, it's useful for in the kitchen. You can put your utensils and all of those things in it. You put markers up on the wall. You can, I saw somebody puts their keys right in the place where they want them exactly, that they can be quickly grabbed. What a cool device. Saves you a ton of time, and the cost is really affordable. I mean, it's like less than 20 bucks and you've got one of these on your way to you. So just think, you know, you've probably got 3, 4, 5 people in your family could use this, your friends and family. So head on over and check it out at stickquick.com. Make sure to pick up 1, 2, or 3 and tell them that you saw Rick Kelbaugh's car out there on the track in the US IndyCar League. Right here on VirtualRacing.Network. It certainly helps to put in a plug for the good old VirtualRacing.Network as we get set to come back to the green flag here. It's going to be Dan Ensch leading us back to the green on lap 15 as we get rolling again.
Green.
And it's Dan Ensch in the lead. He's done it with some strategy as everyone else pitted under this caution that involved Jeff Murray and Iñigo Mardones. And I believe also Manuel Gomez is stub on, but he's continuing, and all of the rest of the cars are on the lead lap. Murray is also out there. He did manage to get some of that damage fixed. Does not look like Mardones will return to the race. So we're back underway. And it's Ensch followed by Bunyan, Zaleski, Livingston, and Strid. That's your top 5 at the moment. As we look at Strid, who has lost a couple of spots. He lost a couple of spots on that round of pit stops. And of course, all of these cars going to be much heavier in fuel than the number 52 ALZ.org Spark VR machine here of Dan Ensch. So Dan also racing for Last Lap Motorsports. We should make sure we get that updated as well in the software. Just realized that wasn't there, but Dan doing a great job repping the team and trying something a little different this race, this season. He saw an opportunity to make this strategic move before everybody took their pit stops, and he said, you know, if everyone else is coming in, I'm staying out. And he's got the light car out there. Kind of surprising that Graham Bunyan able to keep the pace with him, but you have to keep in mind that Dan Ensch does have the older tires on the machine. So trade-off is a lighter car, downside, lesser tires. So we'll see how long Dan can manage to hold that car up there in the front as Graham Bunyan starts to creep in from the rear. And we also see David Zaleski starting to enter that picture. We are on lap 18 here of the POCONO 190 presented by StickQuik. So great to have you with us here on VirtualRacing.Network. Again, if you're out there watching, say hello. And unfortunately, Iñigo Mardones stopping in and saying hello and saying he has no comment But we do appreciate you stopping by, Iñigo. We always love seeing you out there on the track, even if it's unfortunately cut short. Great competitor and always able to challenge. As we see now a challenge possibly for the lead. Look like Graham Bunyan taking a outside in line on Ensch, as Ensch maybe washed out a little bit in the middle of the corner. But those tires might be starting to be a factor. See that beautiful purple livery glistening here in the Pocono sun. As these drivers now completing lap 18 and heading through the famous turn 3 down this long front straightaway. Of course, Pocono built for Indy cars, and each one of these corners representing a different corner, classic corner from Indianapolis, Milwaukee, and Trenton Speedway. And so awesome that the track continues to at least get used here virtually with iRacing and with other sim racing, because the real life series facing some tragedy. And now you see, as I want to properly segue, and I guess we don't want to dwell too much on the previous tragedy that happened here. Fortunately, those affected, Robert Wickens surviving, and really being another great testament to recovery efforts and rehabilitation. So continuing to watch that story very intently. And you know, Robert racing all the time on iRacing service. He has hand controls that he uses, and he's regained so much of his mobility that it's just it's a great thing to watch. If you're not following him over on Twitter or on Facebook, you should definitely do so. But part of that big incident a couple of years ago here involved with Ryan Hunter-Reay going into the tunnel turn. Nevertheless, here virtually we don't have to worry about any of those issues, and fortunately the big wrecks everybody gets to get up and walk away from. But as you noticed, and as I was interrupting my own story to make a point, Graham Bunyan actually dropping back now from Dan Ensch. So that time over a tenth back. That lap times back up there. You can see Dan Ensch actually 0.130 faster each one of the last 4 laps. It's been Dan Ensch who's been gaining ground and not Graham Bunyan. So, you know, one of the huge benefits of being, for example, in second place as Graham is at the moment would be to hang out in the shadow of the car in front. And in that way, if you were up close enough to Dan Ensch, you would be able to lift your foot out of the throttle and save a little bit of extra fuel at the end of the straight. So there is an advantage to running in second. The downside is that dirty air coming off of that car up in front, especially in these IR18 Indy cars. They've got this huge windscreen on the cars now, and it just puts off a ton of aero wash coming out the back of the car. And so it's a bit of a trade-off and a bit of a dance, especially if the tires are already a little sensitive like they are on a couple of these machines. You know, it's it might not be to your best benefit to stay up behind the car in front. So if you're finding the car really sensitive to that aero wash, you might decide, maybe the fuel savings isn't worth it. Maybe I'll just hang back a little bit, have a little bit better traction. And in the meantime, these two have definitely pulled out a bit of a gap. It's over 2 seconds now back to David Zaleski. So whatever strategy Graham Bunyan was on, kind of dropped back from Dan Ensch a little bit. And now Dan makes his way into the pits. Does appear to hit that pit speed limiter okay and get down to the correct speed. So unfortunately Dan's lead will not work out and will evaporate, and now he'll just be hoping for a yellow flag to allow him to catch back up. But all he really needed was a well-timed yellow flag there to cement that strategy. And my salute to him, as he tried to do something a little different from everybody else. But Dan Ensch still on pit road, while Graham Bunyan continues around and will take the lead of the race. Another benefit to Dan is getting a bonus point for leading a lap, which doesn't seem like a lot, but if you got just one of those bonus points every single race, that'd be 12 at the end of the season. And that could definitely be the difference. As we definitely saw last season, that could be the difference between 1 or 2 positions at the end of the season. So very strategic how you want to go about trying to get those extra points. Some of the other points available for pole position, well, we know who got that. It's Graham Bunyan, of course, and for leading the most laps. So these drivers able to snatch a few different areas of position or of extra points at the end of the race. So as we start looking back through the field, of course, Graham Bunyan, your leader, by now 2 seconds over this man, David Zaleski, who's running in second. That's where he started. And then we look back about 1.3 seconds, and it's Howard Livingston who's managed to climb 1 spot from his 4th place starting spot. And the Floridian here running for the Care Camps organization. Of course, Care Camps, one of the big sponsors and that we try to focus on here in the US IndyCar League. Howard working with them each and every race, having them on their side pod. And at the end of the season, of course, the Indy 250, Howard donates an additional amount beyond what he normally does for every lap that he will be running there. So it's become a very special date to us. It's always special to run at Indy, but here, even in Pocono, Howard just trying to get the word out about the Care Camps organization. There's a great group who does a lot for cancer suffering kids as well as their families and their siblings. So Howard doing a great job running here in 3rd place, up a spot, and continuing his podium outlook that has become kind of his new normal. It seemed like a couple of seasons ago when I joined doing the broadcast here for the US IndyCar League, Howard wasn't quite challenging for those podium positions like he is right now. And now every single week he is looking at a top 3 potential. Last season coming in the top of the points, and now this season on good track to do so once again. Take a look back at Jason Lowe. He knows how to win. He knows how to get those championships. And he knows that it's through consistency and pace and maybe a little bit of luck. So Lowe now running in 4th, up 3 spots from where he qualified. And that's really, you know, Jason Lowe has a lot of real life racing experience, and it's a lot of the same way in real life. Maybe you don't get the best qualifying effort. Maybe your first heat wasn't the best that you could have finished, but you gather yourself back up and you just focus on what you can control in the race and how you can manage to pick off 1 spot or just hold steady with that car and make sure you're not the one that brings out the yellow. Always keeping in your mind what your next move is should the yellow come out, or should you get an opportunity to perhaps close up on the back of, say, Howard Livingston in front. What do? Do you want to hang with him, hang in his shadow, try to save fuel, save tires? What would be your strategy? And again, Jason, with a lot of years of experience now, also with a lot of sim racing experience, definitely somebody to keep an eye on as soon as he can find that pace to be right up there with those top 3. But we start on to lap 32 here, and there he is. It's Graham Bunyan, man from Australia. And for those of you who are trying to keep up with him in the Logitech G series that he's also running in and has been very successful already, this I mean, I'm not going to lie. This series has been going on a long, long time. Many different qualifying events. And anyway, Graham Bunyan actually, he didn't have the greatest first race of the two that he was doing, but the second race, he did manage, I believe, to win that race. And so as a result, he will in fact move on to, I believe, the finals, which were supposed to be in Las Vegas, but instead they'll receive a prize worth the amount that they would have received if they had, you know, I guess taken the plane trip to Vegas. But nevertheless, Graham will be able to race it from the comfort of his own home. So those of you who are fans of the US IndyCar League champion, make sure to tune in to Logitech G Series, and we'll probably get a chance to talk with Graham after the race about that. My hope is he'll just have a big US IndyCar League logo on his car for that race. That would be delightful. And perhaps a VirtualRacing.Network sticker on there as well. We'll have to talk to him about that. That's how sponsorship works, folks. You can probably sponsor any one of these cars. I'm just letting you know, if you see a driver out there that you want to have your logo on his side pod, we can certainly facilitate that. We can put you in touch with the driver. If you want to get in touch with the series itself and perhaps sponsor the series, we can also make that happen. So contact either Jason Lowe or contact myself, Trevor Greenfield, your commentator and your host here on VirtualRacing.Network, either through YouTube or on Discord, or you can just go through iRacing.com and look any of us up and contact us that way. Either way, glad to talk with you. Same thing if you're a competitor. Now, we're watching some green flag stops. This is Graham Bunyan and David Zaleski pitting from the lead. Here comes David Strid as well into the pits. So also Mr. StickQuik, Richard Kelbaugh in the pits. He actually was, he's doing great here on the lead lap. Mr. StickQuik hanging with a lot of these leaders. So Graham Bunyan getting his service and back underway, lights off those Firestone tires. And he will resume now in 8th place. Interesting, now he's just in front of Ryan Bowles, who has gone down a lap. Actually down multiple laps, perhaps caught in that first lap incident, and we just didn't catch his car being one of the ones that was caught in it, but down several laps now, and you can see Bowles has done 2 pit stops, so perhaps up on hot tires. And now Bunyan able to get around and continue on his way back towards the front. So now listed as, and you could just see him there, Dan Ensch now listed in 4th place. So his decision to go a bit longer and gain that extra time out on the track has actually worked out very well, as Dan Ensch now in 4th place, directly behind the leader, Graham Bunyan. And we've got a different kind of race on our hands at this moment, as Ensch is now on a different strategy. Last came in on lap 24. So as we're on 37, expect that we'll be able to go probably closer to about 44 to 45. And then it might get a little tight at the end as to whether he can make it with just one stop. So we will find out as we get close. Nevertheless, Ensch now shown in 2nd place. And also, here's another man we were just talking about. It's Jason Lowe who's moved into 3rd. And Howard Livingston back to 4th. There you can see the 2 on the screen. And I think that was all done through the pits. So through the pit cycle, just trying to scan back through my notes and see if we missed that pass, but I believe that was all done in the pits. Insert shuffling noise of going through paperwork here. Be nice if I had a producer that could hand me some notes or give me some more info, but a lot of times I'm just looking through the notes that are provided by our timing and scoring software. It doesn't always pick everything up, that is for certain, especially with crashes. Nevertheless, it is Graham Bunyan. There's no mistaking that. He is our leader. And Dan Ensch with a fabulous strategy call, up 9 positions currently running in second place. And you hear what sounds like a little wall scrape there, but it's not necessarily. That's just perhaps a bit of netcode difference. And Graham Bunyan really getting loose there on the front straightaway. That was a moment. Jump back on board. Is Graham Bunyan possibly suffering some issues with the handling on that machine? He's really struggling to get the input in, kind of feathering the throttle there as he goes through the corner. The gap now back to Dan Ensch is now it's just gone over 2 inches, so it had momentarily closed down and now extending back out as once again Ensch on the older tires, and perhaps they're starting to show their age. This time by a 42.92 second lap for Dan, and that's not gonna make it work with the top group. Is Bunyan able to do a 0.69 and Lowe doing I'm sorry, those are his best times, I apologize. Dan Ensch this last time of 43.44, and that actually is almost close to what Graham Bunyan was able to do, a 43.43. So unfortunately for them though, Jason Lowe is creeping up on the back very quickly. Last time by a 43.13. This time, front dude doing a 0.20 and Lowe a 0.29. So it's kind of evening out. It's looking like there may be a possibility. So we lose our software for a second. There we go. And Lowe could possibly close in on these leaders. We're watching him now. That gap up to Dan Ensch kind of closing. It's now close to a second. We look from on board Lowe's machine. It's now down to about 1.2 seconds. Just ahead, Dan Ensch now slipping back a little bit further. Actually, he had slipped back just a moment, and now he's gotten it back under 2 seconds. So Ensch, drivers really, just as I say that, it's now over 2 seconds. And closing in very rapidly is that Jason Lowe Fusion machine back there. As Lowe now trying to get around the lap car of Ryan Bowles. In the meantime, there's Dan Ensch, and that is how far the gap is from Ensch back to Lowe. So my thought for a second was maybe Lowe was going to try to do some extreme fuel saving, perhaps drop out of that second place, but it doesn't look like it. He's not really losing the gap up to Graham Bunyan very rapidly. And now we've got Graham Bunyan. Is he having a moment? Oh, it looked like that gap was dropping very quickly, and now it's back under 2 seconds again. So Graham having to get around Will Stearns. And it looks like Stearns, unfortunately, has now gone down a lap. As now Graham Bunyan has effectively lapped I guess it's just up to Stearns, and soon to work on Manuel Gomez Esteban. We haven't been talking about much, but there he is, the driver for Team Mazinger, and a contributor to VirtualRacing.Network's donation drive that we did last season. We do greatly appreciate him and the US IndyCar League. When we informed, as we see Dan Ensch now in on the pits, in on the pits, there he is in the pits. Receiving service, up on the jack he goes for the ALZ.org machine, on the revs, drinking out of his drink bottle. Tear off comes off and back underway. Up to speed he'll get, and we'll see where he will cycle back out after the next round of stops. So this time in on lap 45. And Ensch is going to come back out in 9th place. And in the meantime, it's not very far back to Graham Bunyan, who is in the commanding lead and has definitely led the most laps. In the meantime, it is Jason Lowe who now closes up to 2nd place. He is on the same strategy. In fact, he's on a one lap later strategy than Graham Bunyan. So watch Lowe as Lowe continues to find that grip. It kind of looked like in practice he was struggling a little bit. The first couple of laps of this race, he looked like he was struggling to make those adjustments and find that ultimate pace to hang with Graham Bunyan, but now he looks like one of the fastest cars on the track. So perhaps Graham not doing as good of tire savings, but anytime it looks like that's the case, or anytime I get ready to make a projection like Graham is slowing down or Graham is not saving his tires, well, it's like he hits a reset button and all of a sudden he's back to the way it should be. And you do have that ability in these Indy cars. I mean, if you're very sensitive to the car, you can tell that you're cooking the right front or you're cooking the right rear or what have you, and you make the adjustments that you need to. You back it off or back it down a little bit, change your driving line perhaps a tiny bit, and a lot of times you can cool those tires down. You can get the balance back to where it feels right and it's not going to spin you out. And who knows, especially if other cars are struggling out there, you may be the car that's in the right place at the right time. And I've certainly had that happen myself at some really tricky tracks like this. Of course, POCONO named the tricky triangle for a reason. It's different than any other track out there. It is a unique challenge, but once you find that recipe for success here, able to do some things that some other drivers can't, and you might end up in victory circle. Nevertheless, this gap has closed. It was over 2 seconds. Now it's down to 1.6. So will Lowe be able to track down Australian Graham Bunyan just ahead? And in the meantime, just 2.72 seconds back, we've got Howard Livingston holding on to that podium position. Now we're going to have to see again after this round of pit stops whether Dan Ensch, where he will cycle back in. But Dan is kind of a wild card here. Anything can happen, especially if another yellow were to come out. So as we watch on here, and we've got 25 to go, it is Graham Bunyan, your leader of season 13, round number 2, POCONO 190. He's the defending champion and the current points leader. won the first race and is on pace to do so here again. And again, we need to say this every race, but this is a fixed setup series. I'm not entirely sure who provided the setup in particular for today's race. Many times it is David Strid, but nevertheless, Graham Bunyan adapting the best to it thus far. And you can see, though, it's like I talk about him doing well, and then he starts to slide back. I talk about him perhaps struggling, and he seems to increase the gap. It's almost as though he's listening out of the corner of his ears. He's like, I'm going to make Trevor pay for saying that. It's like the reverse commentator's curse, where the driver's in more control than the commentator. Nevertheless, Graham knows exactly what he's doing out there. He's the benchmark for all of these drivers to set themselves by. It was a couple of seasons ago, it was Jason Lowe who was setting that benchmark, and well, it's great to have someone who knows how to work these fixed setups as well as Graham Bunyan does, because he does set that level that you've got to challenge yourself to be able to make it up there. In the meantime, I am seeing that David Zaleski has actually fallen through the field and is currently running in 10th behind Dan Ensch. So I'm not sure if he made contact. I don't see any sort of notes about it again, but struggling there. And now we've got Troy Profit into the pit lane. Rookies here in the series, and was having a good race. Not as good as he qualified, but was having a good time. Unfortunately, now dropping out of that main pack with this off-sequence pit stop. So Bunyan in control, but for how long? I mean, look out the back. That fusion machine is coming quick. Hey, if you're in the YouTube chat room, say hello if you're watching. We do appreciate it. In the meantime, let us know, what color is that on Jason Lowe's car? And also, into the pit lane, it is David Zaleski. So Zaleski receiving service here on lap, well, his lap 54 for Zaleski. And temporarily going to put him a lap down until the leaders can come in. So it has been 34 laps. We will see. This should be the time that we start this next round of pit stop cycling. Mr. StickQuik, Rick Kelbaugh into the pits as well. And indeed, Bunyan and Lowe into the pits. Lowe taking a straight line into the pits, picking up even more time on Bunyan, taking a card right out of Bunyan's book on pit entry. I have no idea whether Lowe made it safely and made it the pit speed, but let's get the pit times up there on the board so you can see that at the bottom of the screen. Will they try any tricks like a little bit of a tiny short fill? I don't know. It's very close leaving the pit lane. It's still Bunyan in front, but Lowe right behind, and Bunyan has got to be frustrated he didn't get as much time out of that pit stop as he would have liked. And this is our new race right here. It's happening. Howard Livingston had taken over the lead for a moment. He'll drop out of the race, and in the meantime, Rick Lovison now taking over the lead. Slows down off of turn 3. He'll come into the pits. And that will give over the lead to Mike West, who also appears to be headed into the pits on this lap. And there goes Graham Bunyan by on the outside. So will we have a showdown at the end of this race between Bunyan and Lowe? That is anyone's question, as there's just 19 to go. These drivers will definitely be able to make it to the end. How short did they fill it? Will they be on track? You know, they all have software to calculate this stuff out. I don't trust any of that software. Computer's trying to lie to me, get me to lose. No, I'm just kidding. Some of them work great. But I think you kind of have to know your software and know what it likes to do, whether it's a little conservative or it's a little aggressive with its predictions. You kind of have to feel all that stuff out. I'm a proud user of RaceLab apps that has a fuel calculator, but there's several that are available that many different drivers are using. And in the meantime, he's back in third. It's Dan Ensch with this off strategy. Unfortunately, he's only made 2 of the pit stops and everyone else has made 3. And last came in on lap 45. So he will have to stop again. And we wait for that to happen, but in the meantime, able to run in third. And you see just behind Manuel Gomez, Esteban as well. Running in, not running in fourth for position, but running behind Ensch on the track. So back up in front, though, it's Bunyan, who's pulled out about a second on Jason Lowe. But again, this is right about the part where the crossover started to happen, and Lowe started to perhaps gain back on Graham Bunyan in the last stint. Will that happen again? Will Bunyan say, oh, I just made some mistakes and perhaps I didn't adjust quite right in that stint and I made a change? Wow, it gets very close to the outside wall there. Going on board with your defending champion, Graham Bunyan. Watching his line through the corner. Very smooth and very much well within the limits of that car. Not really riding it out too far. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is that there are marbles that are on the outside of the track, and so with that, you need to be careful anytime you're running too close to that outside wall, especially in the corners. It can get less and less and less grip, and so you really have to watch your line through the corners. Even if you're in the lead and even if you've got a fast car, you've got the right adjustments in there. It can feel like, well, I remember a rain race. I'm going to throw it back a ways. We'll throw it back a long ways. Back to Champ Car in Cleveland many years ago, and Roberto Moreno, there was a rain race, and he said the wall sucked me in. It sucked me into the wall like a Hoover, talking about like a vacuum. And it's just that way. As soon as you get up in the gray or you get up in the marbles, it's like there's a vacuum cleaner against the wall, and it just wants to suck you right into that wall. So, gotta be careful. And it's so easy to do. You know, you're adjusting the car, you're trying to make small adjustments with your driving. How can I pick up another fraction of a second? I mean, Jason Lowe right now up 5 positions on today's race, and he's a racer. He's won a whole bunch of races, sim racing and real life racing, and he wants to put that car in victory circle. So he's focused on that, and you're trying to shave off those hundredths, those thousandths of a second. It gets real easy to get that right side tire all the way out there to the edge on entry, all the way out there to the edge on exit, just like that. You can see it. I mean, that's just fractions of an inch away from that wall. Insert epic slow-mo instant replay here, but seriously, you gotta be careful. And that's all I'm trying to say is you push hard, you push hard, you push hard, and gotta be really careful to not tap that outside wall while you're pushing so hard. So let's go ahead and do a recap through the field here as we are 13 laps to go. It's Graham Bunyan, your leader. He started on pole, currently leading the race, but for how long? Well, that car behind is going to determine that, and we'll stay tuned with that. It's now under a second back to Jason Lowe. Lowe started 5 positions back in 7th spot to start the race. He's now up into 2nd. I say it every race, put a big circle around that guy. He's a champion. He's a race winner. And when he's in the zone, he's one of these guys that is almost unbeatable, just like Graham Bunyan, and honestly, just like Zaleski and a couple of other drivers can be in this field. but Lowe is in contention today. Keep an eye on that one. Here's Dan Ensch, who's still running in third. Probably hoping for that caution to come out. He can make that yellow flag stop and get fresh tires and fill that car up. But unfortunately, the strategy I don't think is going to play out for him, as it's now been a number of laps. And I think we're coming up to, yes indeed, it's going to be time for him to pit, I believe, this time by. So Howard Livingston running in fourth. He will take over that third spot from Ensch when he pits. And here's David Strid a little ways back. He's fighting hard, but he's lost a spot from his fourth place starting position. And I'll be honest with you, this guy's had so much speed in all the races we've been watching. It was kind of shocking to see him take actually he slipped back 2 spots to take only third. And here Dan Ensch is into the pits for his final stop. Ensch able to make it down safely on the pit road, but back to Strid. Yeah, I was just shocked to see he didn't qualify up on the pole or on the front row, but he didn't. And here in the race, he's not really been able to march forward and hang with Graham Bunyan like he's loved to do each and every race. They basically have been able to work together more or less every race and try to accomplish some things out on the track together, but today has not necessarily been his day. Now here's another driver that we haven't been talking about much, but here he is running in the top 5 with the Berkshire Resort Lodge on the side. Beautiful facility that he's at, and great place to perhaps vacation if you're on the East Coast or thinking about it. Definitely look him up and say hello to Rick. Tell him you see him out there in the US IndyCar League on the Sundays. But Rick's cruising around and having a great race here, running in 5th, up a spot from where he started. Always a good thing to see him having a great day. And speaking of having a great day, here's another guy having a great day. It's Mr. StickQuik, Richard Kelbaugh, who's in 6th place. He's up 4 spots. Had a chance to race with Richard Kelbaugh the other day, and it was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, a guy who's not having as much fun is Mike West. I have a note here. I'll just go back to it since it happened. You can hear him off song, and this is why. He went out, scraped that wall. Like I said, it's easy to do out of turn 2, the tunnel turn, and then a terrific save manages to bring it right back on. Let's see if we can watch that from on board. Get ready for a handful here. Scrapes that wall. Cuts some grass. Great car control and a great save from Mike West. Go back to the live picture as Mike West now heads down into the pits, perhaps doing some damage to that car. So here we go with just 7 laps to go. It's Graham Bunyan with just 0.8 of a second lead over Jason Lowe. Will it be Jason Lowe today getting that first victory? I can guarantee you he'll be happy with 2nd place, but it's going to be tough to be happy with 2nd when your biggest arch nemesis and championship contender is right in front of you, the guy that stole the crown from you. You're Jason Lowe right now. You're definitely, well, you're focused on just one thing. That is that car way up there in front. He's managed to close it a couple of times to under a second. Now it's back over a second or hanging right at about a second. We'll see whether Lowe can manage to do... Oh, and there he's in the wall on the outside, and that's just what we were talking about. So easy to do. It looks like he's got damage. He's slipping off the pace and slipping back, and you see David Zaleski, who's a lap down in 8th place, perhaps going to squeeze by here as the top speed on Jason Lowe's machine might be a little sacrificed. And now Lowe dropping back 3 seconds off of the leader, Graham Bunyan. just entering the corner, he went a little high, and that was all it took for Lowe to scrape the wall and rub some of that speed right off of the car. So unfortunately now slipping back, and Zaleski, I think Zaleski perhaps has damage to that car as well, and I wouldn't be surprised to find out that he had done something similar, as Lowe deciding it's not worth risking it. I'm going to bring it in and make the pit stop and change the wing and see if they can give me any other repairs. Perhaps not get in the way of the leaders, but I tell you what that's done is give over second place to Howard Livingston. So once again, Livingston doing what we were talking about at the opening part of this broadcast, as we've got 4 laps to go here. It's about to get 3 laps to go. And Livingston able to be solid in this race, not scrape that wall, running in second place, and looking excellent doing so here today. Not really too flashy, didn't get up there and make any big challenges for the lead at this moment. He's got an 8.2 second gap to get up into first, but you know, he's also got a 4.4 second gap back to David Strid, so kind of a nice comfortable bubble that Howard has put himself into there in second place. So racing for that Care Camps organization and doing a bang-up job of it. Looking at a potential podium here with just 3 laps remaining. David Strid, well, he started third, and guess where he's back to? So Bunyan started first, and he's back to where he started, and Strid in third where he started. Livingston gaining 2 spots today, and in the meantime, look who's looking even better with Jason Lowe dropping out. It's Rick Lovison back up into fourth, and that will give over possibly, and we're not done yet, we got 2 laps to go, but Richard Kelbaugh, Mr. StickQuik, looking at a top 5 here in Pocono. That would be a fantastic finish for him. And after his final pit stop, Dan Ensch recovering now to potentially get 6th place out of this one. So now, as we are under the final lap, it is Graham Bunyan taking that white flag, and it's a long old ways down that straightaway to second place Howard Livingston. But we go on board here for the final time with Graham Bunyan. He makes his way through turn 1. Can he keep himself from making any errant mistakes here in the last couple of corners? That's not like him. But we've seen some stranger things here today. Goes through turn 2 and then makes a big sweeping arc. Brings it down closer to the apex here in turn 3. A nice even line. And he'll bring it across the start-finish stripe and take the checkered flag here in Pocono for the Pocono 190 presented by StickQuik. And just a little bit further back, it's Howard Livingston across the line in second. David Strid will finish it up in third, and that is an amazing result now for these 3 as Livingston cements his place in second in the championship with that finish. And here's Rick Lovison coming across with a fantastic finish, and I can't draw enough attention to this guy right here, Mr. StickQuik, Richard Kelbaugh, getting 5th, excuse me, a top 5. Congratulations to Richard Kelbaugh, and also to Dan Ensch. He only got 6 here today. That is 5 positions up from where he was qualified after that unfortunate qualifying incident, but he gave it a shot here and tried to get that win on an off strategy, and he almost pulled it off. Nevertheless, it was in fact Graham Bunyan taking your victory here at Pocono. Always love those donuts. And Graham giving us one heck of a show here. And burning off those tires for these fans here who paid all of that money. So fortunate that they were willing to pay all of that money. It goes directly to the US IndyCar League's coffers, all of that virtual money. You see Howard Livingston also stopping on track, and David Strid joining his countrymen, playing some footsie out there on the track between these two. Trying to rack up incident points at the end and have some fun with it. We'll get the final results up here on the screen as these two continue to have fun at the end of this one. It is Graham Bunyan who takes first. Howard Livingston manages to get into second place with a couple of cars dropping out, including Jason Lowe. Unfortunate for Lowe. It's yet another race where a self-caused incident takes him out of contention for the race win, but mistakes are a part of life. I've made several mistakes today. I'll make several more. Just when you're in the race, there's no room for those mistakes, unfortunately, and that does give over second place to Howard Livingston, who again will build on his great start to the season in the points. David Strid in third place. He's got to feel pretty happy with that. He had drifted back a little bit in the race and was potentially looking at just the top 5. Instead, he ends up on the podium, and we'll get to share some spraying of champagne with his countryman Graham Bunyan. Rick Lovison with a great fourth place finish here. Fantastic to have him getting a great finish at the end of this one and a top 5. Richard Kelbaugh, Mr. StickQuik there with that top 5 and going to be adding to his points. Not part of that casualty list of those who had made self-inflicted mistakes that took them out. Dan Ensch there in 6th place. A lap down, but that doesn't really talk about everything that he managed to do today. That was pretty exciting stuff from Dan, and we are glad to have him back racing with us. We look forward to seeing him next week as well. David Zaleski, he was running great in the beginning. Unfortunately, he got tangled up in something. We didn't quite catch that. He drifted back. And Manuel Gomez, Esteban, Jason Lowe, and Will Stearns rounding out your top 10 with Mike West. Ryan Bowles getting caught up in an earlier incident. West having a couple of issues today. Troy Profit, rookie, qualified well, but drifted back in the race, not quite able to hang up there. And also great to have Jeff Murray, Iñigo Mardones joining us here, and of course Danny Alt not quite taken to the track today. So we're going to take a look over into our chat and see if we can pick up our drivers here for an interview. And I see that we do have Howard Livingston available. I'm going to see if I can actually get Dan Ensch to drop in maybe and see if we can catch Dan. Hey Dan, are you there? Can you hear me?
Who are you talking to?
I'm talking to Dan Ensch, the driver of the number 52 car.
Oh, he'll be across the line here in just a minute. Hang on.
Okay. All right. Well, while we wait for him, we've got space to fill. So is Howard Livingston around?
Hey, Trevor. Yeah, I'm with you, buddy.
There he is. Hey, Howard. I know sometimes it takes a couple of minutes to get from the cockpit to the position, be able to talk. But great to have you with us. And hey, what an awesome finish to come in second place. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm blown away. I didn't expect, especially toward the latter part of the race, I didn't expect that to happen. So I'm feeling very blessed right now.
Indeed, very blessed. And, you qualified fourth. Let us know what was your thoughts coming into the race. Again, you qualified fourth. That's a good starting spot, but you weren't up there on the front row. How did it all play out for you today?
Well, I didn't expect this to be a fuel race at all. So, first stint, we were just wide open until we had a caution. And that sort of changed everything. So then I realized if I could save some fuel, I might be able to eliminate one pit stop, which is exactly what I did. However, my last pit stop, I actually ran out of fuel. So I lost quite a bit of time just, kind of coasting in the pits. Fortunately, I had enough momentum to roll up to my pit stall, but that cost me a little bit, so I tried to stretch it a little too much, but it worked out.
Wow. Well, again, stuff that we don't quite catch on the air, but it's great to have you fill us in with that. So, and yet you recovered and you kind of were fortunate there. We saw Jason Lowe. I don't know if you're watching your relative timing, but Jason Lowe was climbing up on the back of Graham Bunyan. He gotten it within about a second, and he was flirting with getting up closer again, and then he just tagged the wall, I think, entering turn 3, just on the outside, and that was enough to completely ruin his pace. I believe Zaleski also having an issue, but you, even though you had that mistake, running out of the fuel, that didn't cost you nearly as much as tagging the wall. So you managed to stay clean, take advantage of a little bit of difficulty of other drivers, and get that Care Camps machine up into second.
Well, this is such a challenging track, and I love this track, but it is a challenging track. It's like racing on 3 different race tracks every turn. So my strategy pretty much was just stay off the wall and try not to screw up. That's as far as my strategy went at the beginning.
Well, and a lot of times that's all you need to do. Keep it simple and get through the race and see where you end up at the end, and that strategy has worked well for you. You're up there in the points again. You finished last season at the top of the points. This season, you're right there. It's looking great. We're 2 races into this one, and you're looking great for potential championship contention here. How are you feeling with that Care Camps machine, and how special might it be to be coming into the final race of the season potentially in the same place?
Oh, that would be awesome. And shout out to StickQuik for sponsoring our races, and actually a shout out to first of all Graham for his win again. He's just so dominant and such an incredible driver. And thanks to all the drivers. This is such a treat racing with these talented guys.
Indeed. And clean racing. Just had one incident today that brought out a caution. Last week, no cautions. And again, just a lot of fun to have a competitor such as yourself and able to really climb up in the standings here. Also great to have you participating when we were doing the Indy Fix broadcast as well. So you get around on the iRacing service and able to get in a little bit of racing when you're not busy with the Coconut Castaways and doing your music and gigs and stuff. So if anybody wants to follow you, Howard, what is the best way to be able to follow what Howard Livingston is up to right now?
We're pretty active on our Facebook, and we try to, we're fortunate to live by the ocean, so we try to share some love every day and take some sunset pictures and anything that's pretty cool out in the water. So you can check us out. HowardLivingston.com is our website, but Facebook, we're kind of all over the place.
Awesome. Well, multiple points of contact, be able to stay in touch with Howard, and always great to have you here in the league and put your best foot forward. Hey, second place today. We're just excited and looking forward to seeing what the rest of the season brings for you, Howard.
Thanks so much, and thanks again for the incredible broadcast you always do. You're a pro, buddy.
You're my favorite for saying that. Thank you so much, Howard. So thanks for joining us. Thank you, Howard, joining us there from second place, and absolutely fantastic run by the Care Camps machine here today. And of course, again, just make sure you circle that event at the end of the season. It's become a special one, and we get a chance to say something about Care Camps, and maybe we'll have Howard up there in contention for either a win or the championship, or perhaps both. I'm just getting super excited thinking about it. So next up, though, we will get a chance to talk for just a second with Dan Ensch. Dan, you around?
Yeah, I got you.
Hey, Dan, that was exciting. First of all, super glad to have you join the field again. You've been such a big part of the US IndyCar League over the season. I'm sure a lot of people were scratching their heads why you weren't in last week's race, but it was just a simple scheduling thing. You just didn't know that it was going on. This week, though, you're back in it, and how exciting. You didn't have a great qualifying. You kind of slapped the wall just as the coverage was getting, the camera got on you, but you made something happen that was really cool, and you almost got a chance to be legit there at the end up in the front. You went off strategy. Now talk us through how that works, because you're the fuel saving master. You're always up on the strategy. What were you thinking as the caution comes out, you decide you're going to stay out there on the track?
Oh, I was thinking there was no way anybody was going to make it the way they did. Well, 5 of them did. Man, got to hand it to them. I got beat with my own strategy today. They did an awesome job. All 5 of them did an awesome job of skipping that one last stop and staying out ahead of me. But I knew I had pace today. I think I even logged the fastest lap for the race. But I knew I had pace, and I really, really thought everybody else was going to have to stop, but they didn't. So hats off to them, man. Good win for Graham and all the guys up front.
Well, I'm going to look through the field here, and indeed you did log the fastest lap for the race. Speed Demon Dan Ensch. It's usually we don't say that because Dan's usually conserving fuel and not necessarily putting in the top fastest times of the race, but to be able to do that is something special. And indeed, you were at the right place doing that strategy. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work out in your favor, but you get a chance to do that again next week, and in the meantime, you get a 6th place here. Not bad for not being on the exact winning strategy at the end, but you managed to do it and get a 6th place, and that's a great way to start the season for yourself, I believe.
Yeah, thank goodness for the drop week. I guess I'm going to have to sign back up on Facebook. I dropped Facebook, and then I don't have access to what's going on with the league, and I didn't even know we started last week, so I'm going to have to hook back up again, I guess, drop my political beliefs.
Well, either way, they're taking over the world, and they've already taken over your computer and our cell phones and everything else, so it's kind of like the end of Fahrenheit 451, just give in. Or whatever.
Oh, yeah, I suppose I should. Or Brazil. You ever see the movie Brazil? It's about like that.
I did, and also I'm drawing a blank. I'm thinking of another movie as well. But anyway,
you got a winner to talk to here, man. Graham
do.
had a great race, and we need to bring him in. I got to get going anyway.
We should. Hey, it was great to have you and the ALZ.org machine and repping our team, Last Lap Motorsports with Spark VR. Great to have you up there, and we'll see you again next week.
Oh, yes, you will. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely, my pleasure. It's great to get a chance to talk with Dan Ensch there, finishing 6th. Had a chance, potentially had a win if things had shaken out a little bit differently. But in the meantime, we do have a chance to talk with our winner. It is Graham Bunyan joining us all the way from Australia. Hey, Graham, can you hear me? And congratulations on your victory, my friend.
I can, and thank you, and congrats to the podium. And Jason, I thought he was coming. I really did, and he had a bit of a mess in turn 2, I think it was. And at the finish line, he made sure that car wasn't going to come back out. That won't be coming back out next year.
Yeah. Well, it was playing out in Jason's favor. I mean, we were tracking him the whole way through. Now, you qualified on pole. That's a huge accomplishment, obviously, with this field, and certainly with your fellow countryman, David Strid. I mean, you let your foot off just a tiny bit, and there's Strid who's going to get the pole. But this really wasn't his race today. He wasn't quite the fastest car out there. You did take pole, and then you slipped back a little bit, but after the caution, and Ensch managed to take over first position. But then it really became you and Jason Lowe. So what was going on with the car? Did you feel like the car was kind of going away on the longer run, or were you feeling like you were able to make better adjustments in the last stint? How did the race all kind of play out for you?
The car was terrible with a full tank. It was absolutely shocking. It was like driving a shopping trolley down a shopping centre aisle with one busted wheel. But as the run went on, the longer it went, the lighter the fuel load, the better the car actually got out of turn 3. So I was aware of Jason coming there. I was saving fuel, and that's why he was sort of catching the time there. I was just trying to stick behind Manuel there and save a bit of juice so I didn't have to pit another extra time. So look, it would have been close at the end there. I think I still would have got it there just by aero push alone, but he was definitely coming.
He was, and it was interesting to track with that again. We couldn't quite tell who was saving fuel, who was going to be right on the edge. It looks like it was a little close. I mean, Howard, 34 laps at the end. David Strid, 34 laps. And then 33 laps for yourself. So everybody's super close to running out of fuel there at the end. That's pretty much a nail biter. I mean, sometimes we do get that where you don't exactly know. Were you sure that you could make it? Were you that confident in your fuel calculation that if you saved the right amount of fuel you'd make it? Or did you think it was going to be like right on the edge you might run out?
No, I definitely had it worked out that time on the fuel. Like when I did my pit stop and took that full tank, I definitely had enough to go. I think I was about 4.5 litres over. So yeah, that last run was definitely spot on. But like Howard said, you know, I wasn't expecting any yellows. I was expecting just to go for it, and it then ended up turning out to be a fuel strategy race. And I hate those races, but that's the way it worked out. And yeah, it worked out well. It doesn't normally.
Well, and again, we never know how it will work out. Usually, like last week, it was caution-free, and that allows these strategies to completely play out. But as soon as the caution comes out, you've got to revolve all this in your head. And now, how is this going to change the layout of the race from this point on if it stays green? Or, you know, is somebody in a better strategy than me? Like Dan Ensch. You know, if there had been another one caution and he had been able to save enough fuel, there's a good chance that Ensch might have been able to take the victory or be in the right place at the right time. I mean, all of these things kind of going through your brain. Nevertheless, the end result here is that a couple of drivers did have self-inflicted mistakes, and one of those was Jason Lowe, who was right in contention for this race win, and just touched the wall on the outside, and that really robbed all of that top-end speed. Graham, how hard is it to fight that temptation to let the car ride out to the very exit? I mean, we watched you a couple of inches from the wall a couple of times, but it looks like you kind of made it a little bit more of a conservative entry and mid-corner and exit, and just tried to keep yourself from drifting out there. How tempting is it to let that car get out there and possibly get into the marbles and get out into the wall?
Oh, look, I like the high line. I've always been a high line man. I love running against it. But this track and with this new dynamic weather this season is playing a real big part. And each time you go around the track, it's different. It's a different lap every time you're doing it. It's not the same each lap. So if it's cold at one end and hot at the other, you definitely feel it on the track. So yeah, I mean, the fastest line is to try and drift out to that wall and get that straight edge exit. You know, you want to try and make your entries and exits as straight as you can. But yeah, it's tempting, but not tempting around here. It's crazy.
You've always got to have your head on a pivot and be thinking of all those strategies while also concentrating on not letting the car drift out and keeping the optimum line. And that's why you're two-time defending champion, and you've won our first 2 races of this season. It's not that the others can't do it, but you managed to find that consistency where others really struggle. Another fantastic race from you here today, Graham. Any other final words from yourself on today's race?
Look, it was a tough race for everybody, and even to win the race, it was still a tough race. There was a couple of moments there I was actually drifting around the corners, and had to say that just the car was just so different in traffic, and then out of traffic it was completely different. But look, I think, yeah, tough lesson this one. A lot to learn with this new dynamic weather that they're having, and dynamic track. So, you know, I mean, going forward, it's going to be difficult, but we only have man, tongue-tied now. I've been up too long. A few tools to play with in the car, you know, to make those adjustments. So if we can't make it with that, then we've only got to drive what we've got. So it's going to be tough.
Well, you were rocking a new livery, and that reminds me, while we've got you, congratulations. You did well in the Logitech G, and your first race you got taken out, but your second race you got first place. Now that puts you through to the finals, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So yeah, the Logitech G Challenge, or McLaren Logitech G Challenge, whichever one you want to call it. Yeah, look, it was supposed to be the top 3 of each region would go through to the grand finals, which would be held in Las Vegas. But due to COVID and Logitech and McLaren getting together and changing a few things, they've actually said that they're going to have it run from everybody's home address. So each region will now host their own grand finals, and there'll be a winner from each region that will win the major prize, which is a trip to Europe to go to the McLaren factory and do all that. But yeah, look, that's been great. It's been tough too. I don't drive the NASCAR, and obviously I can drive it okay, but you know, that's not my normal drive. But it's great. So yeah, like I said, they changed it. So the top 10 guys who I made that to, we all got $1,000 from Logitech and McLaren. Thank you very much. Yeah, so yeah, things are looking good. I'm there to win, but I'm definitely not going to win that race, man. There's some tough competition there.
I've seen you go up against some pretty tough competition, so I know where my money's at, Graham, and obviously good luck with that. And it sounds like drinks are on Graham tonight, but hey, congratulations, and hopefully McLaren is watching you very carefully, because they need some more IndyCar drivers on their team to get signed. I happen to know that. But anyway, we got a chance to see you doing what you do best here at Pocono, and you took victory there at the end. Strid kind of being able to get that podium position as well, your friend. And it's just great to see you guys doing well here and able to continue your winning ways. But looking forward, got another great bunch of races coming up, and it's really anybody's championship. And certainly Howard Livingston is somebody you got to keep a watch on.
Yeah, definitely. Howard's sort of come out of the blue. He was sort of poking his nose around there last season, and he's right there this season. So yeah, no, it's good on him. And David, definitely, he's going to be competition. He's a bit under the weather at the moment, like myself. I've got a touch of the flu, only the flu. I've had my COVID test, so I'm okay. But yeah, no, look, it's going to be an interesting season. Very interesting.
Very interesting season. There you can see the schedule 13. The season 13 schedule, up on your screen. A lot of great races to come, including the road course at Daytona. We're looking forward to that as well. Just great to have you, Graham. Congratulations on all of your successes across the board. And so that everybody can plan it, when is the date that everybody can watch you for that finale for the Logitech G Series, or do you know that yet?
Yeah, I did see that somewhere. Hang on a minute. I think I've got something open here. Hang on. Oh, my God. While I'm doing that, I just want to thank StickQuik for being on board every season. They do well, and Mr. StickQuik himself there coming in the top 5. Well done, Richard.
Totally.
Good stuff. And Rick Lovison there in the top 5 as well, so that's great as well to see those guys up there.
Absolutely. Great guys, and we point that out during the race, but it just proves that any week, it's really anybody's opportunity to get up there in the front. I mean, they finish on the lead lap, and possibly in the right place should a yellow come out to even challenge for more. So great to see them improving each and every week and getting a consistent finish up there in the top. But either way, did you find that date, or is there a chance you
I'm looking at it right now.
It's not before next week, right?
Grand final. Well, it's in June. January. January. I know that. Just trying to see the date. Semi-final. Oh, geez. All I got is December. Season calendar. It doesn't give me a date. 14th of January. There we go. It's 14th of January to the 17th of January. There'll be two grand final races. One will be at Charlotte, and the other one is at some ugly track, Nashville Super Speedway.
That will be interesting. Charlotte and Nashville. I had some experience running Nashville, and that's a tricky track. Good luck at both of those facilities, making a lot of passes. Very tricky. But anyway, Graham, thank you for sharing that with us. January 14th, put it on your calendars. Great to have our champion here in the US IndyCar League going up against so many other champions from the sim racing world. You're always a pleasure to have on, Graham, and I know you're under the weather and it's late there, so we'll let you get off to bed. Hopefully chug some of what's your drink of choice? Bourbon, is that it?
I'm a whiskey man.
Whiskey.
But, yeah, I got a friend of mine who makes some home brew, which is some header scotch, it's called. It's absolutely beautiful. It's like a liqueur, so I drink that.
Well, enjoy your celebration. Drink responsibly, and of course, we'll look forward to seeing you next week as well. Thanks so much for being with us, Graham.
Nah, thank you. Thanks for everything you do.
My pleasure. And that was Graham Bunyan joining us from first place yet again. It seems like the thing that we always talk about here on broadcast, but what an amazing race for Graham today. He started on pole, but it looked like he was under threat several times. Nevertheless, nobody able to actually bring that challenge and take down the defending champion. So Of course, we look forward to next week. We had it up there for a second. This is Pocono. Next week, we return to the Bluegrass State at Kentucky, followed by Texas. We'll be heading to the Daytona Road Course for our annual or our season road course. Milwaukee, Charlotte, Atlanta, California Speedway, Talladega, Kansas, and then our final race at the Indy 250. So again, I've been Trevor Greenfield, and you've been watching here on VirtualRacing.Network live coverage of Season 13, round number 2. It's been my absolute pleasure to bring you the race today, live or on repeat, wherever you're watching from. And, well, we look forward to seeing you for the whole rest of the season. So on behalf of myself, Trevor Greenfield, and all of the rest of the competitors here in the US IndyCar League, make sure you subscribe and like this video for more. We'll see you next week. Until then, bye-bye, everybody. Have an awesome rest of your week.